At issue tonight, the primary season is here. The Iowa caucuses get underway.
I'm the only one that could possibly compete with Donald Trump.
The only way we're going to win the majority of Americans is if we elect a new generational leader.
Who's best suited to pull off an upset? Or will former President Trump win in an historic rout?
Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it.
And our Matt Prichard is in the Hawkeye State.
In the frigid tundra that is Iowa, it is caucus night. Everyone is trying to make it indoors to have their voices heard. We are talking with voters coming up in just a moment.
This live edition of At Issue starts right now.
Well, good Monday evening and welcome to a primetime edition of At Issue. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, everybody. I'm Cory Smith.
And I'm Sue O'Connell. Look at us here being live, really live. And we've got special coverage all this week leading up to the day we've had our circled on our calendars, the New Hampshire primary. We're going to be full speed ahead until next Tuesday and beyond.
Don't get ahead of yourself, though,
Okay,
because tonight we're focused on Iowa. After months of campaigning, polls, speculation, polls, name-calling, polls. The first real test for candidates on the ballot is tonight. The Iowa caucuses begin at 7 p.m. Iowa time, so in about a half hour from now. Nationally, the talk tonight going to be the results, of course, but on the ground, it's got to be the weather. Man. It is not nice out there. If anyone can feel their lips in Iowa, they will tell you just how cold it is. This is a live look from Waterloo, Iowa. The National Weather Service says there has never been a colder Iowa caucus night than what's forecast tonight. Wind chills near minus 35 degrees. In other words, it is painfully cold.
Indeed. And unlike a primary election where voters can just cast their ballot throughout the day, caucus goers actually have to show up in person at a specific time and a specific location. And a lot of them have been there tonight already. Yeah,
former President Trump hoping for an historic win, and polls indicate he may be on the verge of doing just that. The final NBC News Des Moines Register Medicum Iowa poll of likely Republican voters shows him nearly 50% support, with nearly 30% lead over his closest opponent, Nikki Haley. This poll was the first to show Haley in second over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is coming in at 16%, and Vivek Ramaswamy a distant fourth.
All right, so let's go. Let's get our bundled up and head out to Iowa. NBC 10 Boston political reporter Matt Prichard has been braving that freezing cold, not to mention all that snow and wind this weekend. He joins us live at the site of one of the caucuses in West Des Moines, Iowa.
Matt is going soft on us tonight. Look at him inside in a sweater. The temperatures are below zero, so we can understand why he did that. Matt, before we get to you, we want to give folks a perspective of just how cold it is today. We put today's temperatures as of 6 o'clock in 3 major cities and compared them to the temperatures on caucus day for the last 5 caucuses. And as you can see, it's at least 30 degrees colder, and we're not even factoring the wind chill. That feels like temperature. Matt, what's it like there? Could the dangerously cold temperatures perhaps keep people at home?
Oh, Cory, I can appreciate our graphics department doing all the work on that, but you could have just asked me. I would have told you that it is freezing cold here, and no other city in the United States is going to be able to compare to what we are experiencing here. It's negative 5 degrees is what it says on the actual thermometer, but in West Des Moines, it's negative 25 right now for a real feel, and that has been a big concern as we've been leading up to the caucuses, whether or not voters would actually make their way out or whether they would be deterred by those cold temperatures. A lot of Iowans told me that, hey, this is Iowa. These sort of things happen, but they also admitted it's rare that they get a weather snap quite like this. Many of them had never seen anything quite like this. Now, being at this precinct, we've already been seeing a lot of people filing in, a lot of cars pulling into the parking lot, and we're almost about an hour away from things starting. So that's a good sign. We'll hope to see more people coming in. But over the course of the weekend, of course, every single voter that we had a chance to speak with, we asked them about the weather and whether it would deter them. Take a listen to what they had to say.
I still don't understand this. It's too cold to caucus. I've been in some cold caucuses before, and it's Iowa in January. What else are you going to do? I grew up on a farm. A lot of my friends and family grew up that way, and you don't get a day off. You show up.
I'm dragging all my kids and all their friends. If they want to ride, I'll take them in this four-wheel drive. I got lots of room.
We want to take part, and we feel now there's a candidate that's worthy of us doing that. So, yeah, no, and the weather, this is Iowa. That's no big deal.
You got to take care of animals. So,
And in this weather, we got to be out in it anyway.
7 p.m. Central Time. That is when the Iowa caucuses will officially kick off. Of course, that's 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and then we're going to wait and see how quickly we get results. If you remember 2020, things got really messy when the Democrats were doing their caucus process. We'll wait and see how Republicans fare and whether or not we'll be able to share results by 11 o'clock tonight on NBC 10 Boston. Guys.
All right, Matt. So former President Trump, he's made a few appearances in Iowa over the weekend. He's hoping, of course, for this major win to propel him forward. You went to an event yesterday. Can you describe Mr. Trump's message to voters and what his supporters are telling you?
Well, it was interesting to hear Donald Trump up on the stage in Iowa. We hadn't seen him for many of the months leading up to this, of him actually coming to the Hawkeye State. And when he was speaking with supporters, he also brought up the turnout concerns, basically saying, you folks still need to come out. The polls may say I'm way ahead, but if you just think I'm way ahead and you don't come out and actually caucus for me, then all of this will be moot. So he was certainly trying to tell his supporters to get out there, make it to their precincts despite these frigid temperatures, and said he is the only person in this race who can actually take on Joe Biden in his mind and be the right answer for the country for the next 4 years or so. As for his supporters, of course, many of them are standing staunchly by him, but I also spoke with many who said that they felt like the country needed to go in another direction, despite the fact that they made their way to a Donald Trump event to hear him speak. Many of them said they've heard him speak before, but they will be going and caucusing for someone else. That said, if Donald Trump is the nominee, most told me they will plan to vote for him. Guys?
We knew Donald Trump was going to be a formidable opponent, but a year ago, they thought Iowa was going to be this coming out party for Governor Ron DeSantis and his campaign. He spent a lot of money in Iowa. The hope was that it was going to give him momentum to New Hampshire, Super Tuesday, South Carolina. But aides this weekend say that, you know what, after Iowa, he's just going to bypass New Hampshire, head to Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina. Are you hearing any sort of, not necessarily pushback, but any sort of surprise at that decision from his supporters who were going to caucus for him tonight?
Well, no, I think most of them are focused just on the here and now of Iowa. Of course, we know Ron DeSantis put a lot of his eggs into this particular basket and is hoping for a big momentum swing in the Hawkeye State tonight. But at latest NBC News poll that you referenced has him in third place at this point, behind Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. But his campaign seems to think that they've done enough groundwork that the polls will wind up being wrong. They're hoping for a second place finish or better. We'll wait to see if that's what actually happens. But as you mentioned, Cory, his plan is to go to South Carolina after this instead of New Hampshire. He'll be in the Granite State, but first he's going to head to Nikki Haley's home state. I had a chance to speak with NBC News political correspondent. Here's what he had to say.
It's the Joe Biden move. And in fact, Joe Biden, before he ended up losing in New Hampshire, ended up retreating to South Carolina. The coalition actually makes more sense for Ron DeSantis in South Carolina than it does in New Hampshire. His poll numbers in New Hampshire aren't all that great right now. Obviously, I think he wants to kind of plant a flag in South Carolina to say, hey, I'm here, while everyone else dukes it out in New Hampshire. But again, he's got to finish second or better here in Iowa before we even talk about the South Carolina primary for him.
Political strategies, of course, being utilized by all the different candidates. And in fact, while we've been here, we've been able to make it to pretty much every candidate that's still on the GOP ballot here in Iowa. We got a chance to go to a Vivek Ramaswamy event, and he did sort of an interesting exercise where he had the voters raise their hands to say who they were going to caucus for. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to tell you and show you what voters had to say. Cory, Sue, back to you.
All right, Matt Prichard in Iowa, indoors, warm, cozy in his cable knit sweater. Matt, we appreciate the insight, as always. All right, joining us here at the table now, Tom Hodgson, longtime sheriff of Bristol County and chairman for the Trump 2024 campaign here in Massachusetts. Also joining us, Jaquetta Van Zandt, host of the podcast Politics and Prosecco, also our favorite fill-in host on the Taking Issue podcast. Thank you both for coming back to At Issue tonight.
Thanks for having us.
We certainly appreciate it. Jax, we'll start with you. Let me get your observations. Here we are finally seeing people vote. What do you make of the Republican field as it stands today?
I think that Ron DeSantis started out as the perfect first date, and now the Republican Party is starting to ghost him. And I think what's interesting about this is he had a lot of them sort of in the palm of his hands. The problem is he didn't stand on those issues that he was talking about in the beginning. And so now they're like, we want to go with someone new. And Nikki Haley is formidable. She's a smart lady.
Tom, what's your take on how Trump is doing in Iowa? We had a little conversation in the green room before. You know, if this were 4 years ago for Trump and this weather hit, or 8 years ago and this weather hit, he might not be in the shape he's in, but you have confidence that he's going to do well tonight, regardless of the weather.
I do, and they learned a lesson in the previous campaigns that they need to do a better job at the ground game, and they've done it. They have a phenomenal ground game, and I think we're going to see some really great results in tonight's election.
So we've talked about DeSantis, we talked about Trump. Let's talk about Nikki Haley. Tom, I want to come back to you. And TJ, if we can, let's play this soundbite from last night in Iowa. Former President Trump apparently expressing some concern about Nikki Haley's campaign signing people up to vote. Let's listen.
But in New Hampshire, they are actually signing people to vote. And I think that's disgraceful. I don't even know if they're allowed to do it. So we're going to have a lot of...
Now, to be clear, it's too late to switch party registration in New Hampshire. Tom, what is he doing here? It sounded like the rigging allegations are coming back into his vocabulary.
Well, it's the final hours of the campaign, and I think it's every candidate's going to do everything they can to get their people motivated, and I think that's always been his style, and he's going to continue.
But are baseless allegations the way to go if you want to get people to trust you in the primary process?
Well, I think he's repeating something that probably somebody told him, and I think he is trying in every way he can to motivate his voters in the final hours.
But is that who we want as a leader, someone who waits for someone else to tell them what to do? No, and we're not going to do that on MLK Day. We're going to talk about inclusivity, and we're going to talk about people wanting to vote and to motivate people to get there.
Tom, I want to talk a little bit about what is motivating people to support President Trump with his 91 felony counts. I think if we had talked 8 years ago and we had one candidate who had one felony count, that would have disqualified them from being support. Why are people still dedicated to supporting Mr. Trump?
And not just the ones that are still, the ones that are continuing to join on, I think have everything to do with when he first took office. Day one, the Washington Post came out and said this is the beginning of the impeachment of Donald Trump. And since that time, they have seen day in and day out, not only the press, but these groups that were going to suffer when he said, I'm going to drain the swamp, reacting to it and trying to do everything they can to undermine him. I think people are saying we now see exactly what the institutionalized government has done and how they've worked against us when Donald Trump was looking out for us and our families, our communities, and this nation.
All right, Tom, Jax, we're going to have to leave it there. It's a short night, even though it's a holiday Monday. But we do appreciate you both coming on and talking to us. It's going to be a long process, so we will certainly talk to you guys both again.
We'll look forward to it. Thanks so much.
All right, for joining us.
At Issue Decision 2024 is going to be right back when we turn to talk to somebody who had his finger on the pulse in Iowa for 4 decades.
Yeah, we're going to talk with David Kochel after the break. And look at that. It's Iowa. Still very cold, Cory. Still very cold.
We're back with live images coming to us from Iowa. A freezing cold night with caucus goers there doing their part, getting the primary season started. A little earlier today, we spoke with someone who knows every corner of Iowa, all 99 counties between them. David Kochel also knows Republican politics, perhaps better than anyone else in that state. He got to start 40 years ago as a field staffer in Iowa. And ever since, he's been in the trenches for GOP campaign politics.
Yeah, he has worked for folks like Mitt Romney and most recently the Jeb Bush campaign in 2016. We started our conversation with him asking, of course, about the weather and whether this experience will keep many people at home and away from the caucuses.
Oh, we always talk about the weather, but nothing like this. We are in a completely different ballpark here. It is absolutely freezing out here. I'm outside, it's 5 below, wind chill of probably 25 below. And we've never seen anything like this. And, a lot of people wondering what kind of impact this is going to have.
We know Iowans take pride in these caucuses, but, -5 is -5. There's a lot I'll do for my candidate, but maybe not this. Which campaign stands to benefit from a drop in turnout because of the weather?
I think more of the urban candidate, people who appeal in the suburbs and in urban areas. The roads are in better shape there. Believe it or not, this is an insight you will get nowhere else. If you have a heated garage, you are much more likely to go get in your car and drive to a caucus. I got in my car this morning at 6 a.m. It was outside. It was 15 below, 40 below wind chill. It felt like I was getting inside an ice box. And I think that might actually dissuade people. Normally people will say, the conventional wisdom, well, if you've been to a caucus before, you'll go again. Or if you're really enthusiastic about your candidate, you'll go. But in this case, if your car is already warmed up, yeah, more likely to go. So that's you'll hear that analysis nowhere else.
I like that. Let's go back to a balmier time. Back in 2016, of course, former President Trump lost the caucus, and then he didn't concede, and he ran that campaign based on free media, large rallies, and, of course, his name recognition. His outreach and ground game this time has changed. How are you seeing it? How is it different there?
Oh, it is orders of magnitude better in terms of how he's built this campaign. They have a really professional staff. They have these, it's the hottest ticket in Iowa right now, these white hats with gold leaf saying caucus captain. He's got 1,700 precinct captains around the state. They have a very well-organized packet that sort of walks people through how to do the caucus. They've been organizing rides over the weekend as the temperature started dropping. They're looking for people with 4x4s and large SUVs. They're actually organized down to the precinct level, and I think they're doing what they need to do to win Iowa. Of course, they're expected to win Iowa, and I don't see any reason why they're not going to come out on top tonight. The real race, though, is going to be for second place.
Obviously, every voter is different, but can you give us a sort of profile on your typical Iowa caucus voter? And I ask that in the context of the numbers that we've seen when it comes to evangelical Christians and the former president. About 51% of them say he is our guy.
Yeah. Evangelicals make up a huge portion of the caucus here, always have, really going back to the 1980s. And Trump has really competed well with evangelicals, even though some of the higher profile organizers are with DeSantis, like Bob Vanderplatz and Steve Deace. Trump has released probably 125 faith leaders around the state. I think we're going to see for the first time a split in the evangelical vote, and I think Trump is going to take more than his share of them, certainly more than he did in 2016.
Why hasn't Florida Governor Ron DeSantis been able to break through? He did the full Grassley, went to all 99 counties. He poured a lot of time and money into the state. I got to think a year ago today, he was probably feeling good about his chances in Iowa. Where has it all just gone wrong for his candidacy?
Oh, could be a lot of reasons. Yeah, a year ago, he was probably at 40%. Right now, he's kind of steadily dropped all year long. He got in late May. Trump attacked him for 6 months with no response. And, I don't know. Some people look really good on paper. They get out on the trail and they just don't quite live up to the billing. I think we've seen some of that with Ron DeSantis. And they've still got high-profile endorsements. Obviously, Governor Kim Reynolds, who's very popular here, a lot of legislators, these evangelical leaders. So we'll see if he overperforms. He's also built a very good organization. He has slipped in the polls, but we've seen this before where candidates with a great organization can overperform. Cruz was behind Trump in 2016, ended up beating him on the strength of that organization. That's what DeSantis is hoping for tonight.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that after the first date, which I don't get a second date, is that I'm good on paper. But, hopefully DeSantis will do better than me. Let's talk about the rules y'all have for your caucus goers. Of course, every state, every party, different rules. The caucus goers must be registered with the Republican Party, but here's the loophole. Democrats and independents can change their registration today. Do you expect that any Democrats are going to take part in this Republican caucus, either just to cause chaos or because they want to support a candidate other than Trump?
Yeah, probably not to cause chaos. We've seen this before. There's some precedents. First of all, the Seltzer poll over the weekend showed that some of Nikki Haley's support is coming from independent voters who plan to caucus for her. A smaller number of Democrats, but there are some. In 2008, we saw 56,000 new voters come into the Democratic Party because of how exciting that race was between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and John Edwards. So there's some precedent for a lot of people coming over. We're not going to see that kind of number tonight, but even 5,000 or 7,500 votes for Nikki Haley that come into the party might be the difference between second and third place for her. So I'll be watching that pretty closely tonight.
All right, before we let you go, if you want, what does your gut tell you in terms of how things work out tonight?
Well, there's going to be two campaigns. There's Trump versus his own expectations. If he comes in under 50%, that's not the best night for him, because that says that over half of Iowans said, no, we want a new direction. And then you've got Haley versus DeSantis kind of fighting for the opportunity to stay in this race, get a one-on-one opportunity. Right now, the momentum is with Haley. She's risen over the last 2 months in the polls. She's got a lot of money. She's got more ads on the air than anybody. And she's got crowds that have been rising over the last couple of weeks. So I would give the edge to Haley, but the DeSantis organization is formidable. There's no question. So we'll see who comes out on top, and that's what we should be watching for tonight.
Thank you so much to David Kogel for joining us, as you saw, in a very chilly location. He, of course, joined us earlier today so he could participate in the caucus tonight.
And our Matt Prichard, he's been dealing with the same conditions, but all weekend long. And right now he's inside a caucus location in West Des Moines, Iowa. What's going on there, Matt?
Yeah, Sue, I mean, we've still seen people filing their way in. In fact, in the last 10 minutes, we've actually lost a degree on the real feel. It's now negative 26 outside for the real feel, negative 5 on the thermometer. So you can tell these are conditions that could keep people away, but it doesn't seem to be. We're filling up this elementary school gymnasium pretty quickly. People have about 10 minutes left. Remember, they have to be inside at 7 o'clock. That's when the doors close. And if you aren't inside, you don't get to caucus. So we're excited to just watch the process, which, again, is going to unfold here in just a few minutes. Guys?
Matt, we know you caught up with all the Republican candidates this week, and we're looking at video from a Vivek Ramaswamy event you were at. You spoke to the front runner, former President Trump's folks. You've been talking to folks campaigning and with single-digit support like Vivek Ramaswamy. What's it like at one of those campaign events where the crowd is a little sparse, we'll say?
I mean, the Vivek Ramaswamy event was interesting because, frankly, we went on Friday in the middle of the biggest blizzard conditions that we experienced while we were here. And there were probably 40 or 50 people in the room that actually made their way out to hear Vivek Ramaswamy speak. And as we've been going across the state, a lot of the voters that we speak with say that they like what they heard from Vivek Ramaswamy, but they probably weren't going to caucus for him. So you can sort of see the problem that he's facing. He may have at least resonated his message with a few voters, but was unable to actually make it stick and make them commit to caucusing for him. One interesting moment when we were at his event, he did sort of a hand-raising exercise, and it sort of brought out some interesting results. Take a listen.
How many of you are planning to be at the caucus on Monday? Thank you. Can I ask you, how many of you are inclined or expecting to support me at the caucus right now? A smaller number of you, but a good number of you. And how many of you are thinking about going for, I think there's two America First candidates in this race, Donald Trump and myself. How many of you are thinking of going for Donald Trump? A couple of you.
And just sort of a surprising moment there when you consider that Vivek Ramaswamy has a very similar message to Donald Trump. So if they're not caucusing for Vivek and they're not caucusing for Trump, who exactly are they going to be supporting come 7 o'clock tonight? We're going to wait and see if that is a bellwether and maybe shows a surprise result coming our way by 11 p.m. or tomorrow morning. Guys?
Matt, a candidate who I thought was going to be out of the race by November, but is still in the race and still polling in the low single digits, is former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. You caught up with him. What's he doing? What's his focus?
I mean, it's really interesting talking with Asa because one of the first things he said to me was, I've outlasted 8 other candidates and I am still in the race. So he's using that as a point of pride and still feels like he has something to offer. Frankly, he's the only candidate left in this race that has been completely critical of Donald Trump and that's what he has been running on. Chris Christie, of course, was that way, but ducked out of the race just a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, really, at this point. Asa Hutchinson remaining in and hoping that maybe he'll be able to scrounge up a small bit of momentum here in Iowa that can propel him forward. My question to him was, are we going to see you in New Hampshire? He had a surprising answer to it.
Expect to see me in Massachusetts because I'm on the ballot in Massachusetts. It's you're a state that plays this year because you are a Super Tuesday state, and excited about that. But yes, you'll see me in New Hampshire. I've already booked my flight.
So for whatever it's worth, it sounds like Asa Hutchinson will be sticking around and be around in the Bay State come Super Tuesday. Of course, a lot of words at this point in the campaign may prove not to be true by the time we get there, but we'll just have to wait and see if that does indeed ring true by the time Super Tuesday rolls around. Cory, Sue?
All right, Matt Prichard live in West Des Moines, Iowa, covering tonight's caucus. Of course, Matt's going to have complete coverage for you tonight on the NBC 10 Boston News at 11, and he'll be with us all week on these live editions of At Issue. Let's come back to the table now, bring back Tom Hodgson, chair for the Trump 2024 campaign here in Massachusetts, and Jaquetta Van Zandt, host of the podcast Politics and Prosecco. Let's go ahead and just let Iowa do Iowa. Look ahead to New Hampshire. Your thoughts moving into the Granite State. I'm curious, are you surprised at how lackluster, I'll use that word, the attacks against Trump have been from Nikki Haley and from Ron DeSantis? They obviously want to win, but it doesn't seem like they really want to win.
Well, I think they would ideally like to win, but I do think that they have been a little bit hesitant to really go overboard. What that means as far as what their expectations are, if they're going to be looked at as a possible consideration for vice president, nobody really knows. My guess is that they wouldn't be two that might be on the list, but we have to wait and see.
Jaquetta, I want to look a little bit past Tuesday to the next 4 years. Of course, the Democrats not competing really in the primary at all, although there is a write-in campaign for President Biden. I was up in Manchester this morning, talked to a couple of Democrats, and they were a little bitter about it. Are Democrats concerned that, it may not be a problem this time, but next cycle it will be?
I think they should be. I think there's the conversation that we're not all having is what do we want the candidates to look like and what do we want them to talk about? And right now, people just are so checked out because it's the same rhetoric from the Republican Party. And quite frankly, it's the same rhetoric on the Democratic side, too. It's not that one is different than the other. But I think the next 4 years, we're going to have to really take a look at how we want candidates to behave, who we want on the ballot, what their qualifications need to be, and quite frankly, where are we shaping the conversation around legislation and not just party politics or popularity?
What do you think, Tom?
Well, I think to Jaquetta's point, there is one difference in the way that the Republican Party works, and most people, I think, would agree with me that Donald Trump speaks very differently than the rest of the candidates. He's somebody that what you see is what you get. He's not about politics. He came from the private sector, doesn't need the job, didn't need the salary, and he's going to tell the people of this nation exactly what he told them last time is, I'm going to drain the swamp, I'm going to focus on your issues, and we're going to do everything we can to get America back again.
All right.
Well, wait a minute. He's talking a rhetoric that is exclusive. So let's be clear about who he is.
We'll leave it there and have you both back. And I have a good question for you, so it's going to come back next time.
Looking forward to it.
Thomas, Jaquetta, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
And thank you for joining us. That's it for tonight, but we're back here tomorrow night, 7:30, with another live edition of At Issue.
We're going to break down the results from tonight. As the campaign swings to New Hampshire, we're going to head live to the events held by Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu is going to join us live, and you'll hear what New Hampshire voters told me about the campaign. A Sue on the Street special in the Granite State.
For Sue O'Connell, I'm Cory Smith. Have a great night, everybody.